What's up guys, name is Dre and welcome to another Genshin Impact video, and it is time to update my tier list. So I did start a new format for my tier list, so I moved away from the old format where I did put out a DPS tier list on the first day and a support utility tier list on the second day. So this tier list now is a lot more in-depth. I want to thank all my friends in advance that worked with me on this tier list. So about 90% of the characters in game we tested very heavily right now. So I would say that this is like 90% based off our experience, 10% speculation. So I want to give a big shout out to all the people that worked with me on the tier list. Special shout out to my boy Trazen. He streams on Twitch very regularly. He also streams Genshin Impact, so make sure to check him out. twitch.tv/TTROASN, Trazen. So yeah, he helped out with the tier list. Now, I want to give a short introduction to explain how this tier list works, and afterwards we jump right into it. I don't want to explain like these terms: main DPS, sub DPS, support, exploration, and abyss. If you want to take a closer look, just press pause here and then you can read them through them for yourself, as well as for the tiers. We have SS as the highest tier, S, A, B, C, and D as the lower tiers. Also explanation here, just press pause. What I want to explain is, of course, these three, because I think they aren't too clear. So C1, C2, C4, or C6, usually those are constellations that can impact the character. Therefore, I have an explanation. So these are possible constellations that give a huge power spike, which move the character up in the tier list. So I will explain this, of course, for every specific character as we move on through the tier list. So if there is like a constellation that changes the character for one of these roles, then I will move him up in the tier list, and of course I will explain it. Then we have the overall tier. So this is the average of all tier categories where the character is placed. So we have like the average of main DPS, sub DPS, support, exploration, and abyss, and then this gives the character his overall tier. Lately notes, so I just tried to give in like one sentence or in two sentences to explain like the specific abilities of the character. For some characters, we didn't put in a tier because I think that the character is not made to put in that role. Of course, we know that Barbara, there is like those very heavily invested Barbaras where you can invest in her to make her to a main DPS, but usually this is not the case how you want to play a Barbara. And that's the reason why we didn't give her a tier. So this just for explanation. And also it would move down the overall tier for certain characters. That's another reason why we didn't give characters a tier for every role. Now I try to make this as fast as possible for every character because we have a lot of characters to go through. And yeah, another addition that I wanted to say is that it is very important. This tier list is for AR50 plus, and all the characters on this tier list are considered at constellation 0, except of course if I say that there is a specific constellation that makes the character way better. Yeah, I think that's for the introduction, so let's move in with the tier list. Alright, so let's move right into the first character, which is Amber. So we consider her as a sub DPS or supportive character. She has a taunt with her E ability. She can provide a high fire DPS burst, but she needs a lot of investment to work. You do need constellations. As I said, constellation 0. This tier list is considered constellation 0 for all the characters. The only thing that I would like to explain is the exploration for S. That's because she is the only pyro archer right now in the game. You very often do need like archers during your exploration progress, and fire is an element that you also need very often through exploration, and Amber is the only one that can do that. That's the reason why we gave her a S tier on that. Overall, she ends up with B tier. Now, Barbara as the only Hydro 4-star healer. Support, we give her an A because she can heal very consistently. Since she is a healer, Healer always move up in tiers because we do not have a lot of healers in this game. Exploration, she doesn't provide anything special. In the current Abyss, she's not that good, but still, she overall can get a B tier. For Beidou, it is the same. So Beidou is a character that loses strength starting from AR 50. Actually, you could consider her as a B tier in the main DPS slot, but she's like still alright. You can build a lot of different team comps around her. She gets the S tier because she is a Claymore user. She is tall and she can swim a bit faster than other characters. So maybe I want to explain exploration real quick. Exploration, just we consider like all the advantages that the character gives and all the disadvantage and combine it to give them like a final tier. Yes, in the current Abyss, Beidou is really good. She is very strong. She's a decent unit overall. So, not bad at all. You can build her. Let's move on with Bennett. So, you see a lot of red numbers on him. As a main DPS, we gave him an S. We do not consider him really as a sub DPS. So, the thing is, with Bennett, either you play him as a main DPS or you play him as a support. There's like not this between thing for Bennett. We gave him S tier for main DPS. He can put out a lot of damage, but it is like not the perfect DPS that you would choose. Support, he definitely is SS, even at C0, the best supporter in the game. Exploration wise, he has a 100 sword user, B tier. SS for the current Abyss. With C1, he gets the effect to even buff without the 70% health, but then we would consider him a SS+. We cannot move him up in the tier list. So he is a lot of... So it does change a lot for him, but it doesn't move him up another tier. So he's already SS even at C0. And overall, we give him still SS as the most versatile unit in the game. In gacha games, which Genshin Impact is, versatility is a very important factor. So you can use the character for all the content that you like. Chongyun, alright, I don't want to go over Chongyun. So BB, main DPS, sub DPS, support, exploration. He's a 200 sword user, so we give 200 sword user a bit more of an advantage. Current Abyss, and overall he still gets the B tier because it is 3 times B. Diluc, as a very flexible DPS, he pairs with Xinqiu. He's like the best DPS carry in the game. For exploration, we give him an S tier. He is tall, he runs a bit faster, and he has a Claymore, so definitely an S tier. In the current Abyss, he is SS, no doubt. That makes SS up in the end. Now let's go through Diona. We gave her A+ for support. I didn't test out Diona for myself, but a lot of my friends did. They did really feel positive about her, but they couldn't move her up in the S tier, so the Constellation 6 would change that because it does buff 200 flat elemental mastery. That's the reason why she gets the S tier, but only at C6. Then A tier in general. Fischl, very strong support. Actually, she only gives damage, but she is a main DPS or sub DPS. We give her a very consistent S tier for exploration. She doesn't really provide anything. We can actually talk about a B because she has a bow, but she doesn't bring you any specific things for exploration. Abyss, in the current Abyss, she's also a very solid character. We give her an S tier. C6 for sub DPS. We move her up on the SS tier because her power spike on C6 is one of the strongest in the game. We consider it as a very strong power creep. So ending up to give her a S+ still at the end, even though here is a C. Exploration shouldn't affect the overall tier too much, but Fischl is one of the best characters in the game still. If you have her at C6, then she outperforms 5-star characters, or she is like on the same level as them. Jean, also, I don't want to talk too much about Jean. Anemo is a very good element for exploration. Jean can help out with that. She is the second best healer in the game. giving her A tier overall. So the special ability from Jean is like that she can do everything. You can fit her into every role. As you can see, she has a tier in every role, but she's like not the best for everything. Yeah, Kaeya. Kaeya is one of the best enablers, or if not the best enabler for Razor for superconduct reaction. He can enable the reaction the most consistent way with Razor, but also he has the new cryo set, which moved him up on the tier list by a lot of tiers. So we give him B for main DPS, sub DPS, support, exploration, because he is a bit taller. In the current Abyss, he is alright, but not too strong. I tested Kaeya out in the current Abyss. I think he was alright, but I could have used another character which would have been better. C2, we would change the sub DPS role. It wouldn't move him up in the tier list, but because his C2 is so strong, you can have literally the ult up on cooldown, because it does increase the duration of its ultimate. We weren't able to move him up in the S tier because then it would be on the same level with Fischl, which we wouldn't agree with, and that's why he gets like the A+ at C2. Keqing, very consistent S tier overall. She has like this teleport ability, which why she gets S in the exploration. She's like a very strong character, but we couldn't give her SS because she is Electro, and like SS characters are like the top tier characters, and she doesn't get close to melt and vaporize uses or abuses, so that's why we couldn't move her up. We still ended up to give her a S+ because she is like the most versatile carry in the game, but as I said, Electro doesn't let her go into the SS territory. Move on with Klee, main DPS SS, one of the hardest hitting units in the game. Sub DPS, she is alright as a tier. Usually you want to really build the team around Klee and not the other way around. Exploration would give her A tier. So a lot of people would maybe give her a S or SS tier because she can show these specialities in Mondstadt. But the reason for her is she is a small character. That's why she only gets the A tier. So my friends didn't agree with me when I wanted to put her in the S tier, and the majority of them wouldn't move her up. So I have to agree with that, because this tier list is a product of like all the opinions, not only my opinion, and sometimes I have to agree with them if they're the majority. Abyss, currently very strong. We can give her a S tier in support at C4 because then she can lower his defense. Currently, this is a very strong feature. Elemental Shred or Elemental Resistance Shred. It is very good. Because of the fact that she is so clunky, exploration-wise, and also the sub DPS slot at the end, she is S+. She's a very top tier character, but overall, we cannot give her like the SS tier because she doesn't need to. You have to build around her to use her. Lisa, I don't really want to talk about this. This is of course for memes. Actually, I would give her like B tier. Then she will end up with a C tier as the OG waifu in the game. Let's go ahead and talk about Mona. Mona is very interesting. Mona can gets very high tiers on like every category, and I have to say Mona is like the most well-rounded unit. But the problem with Mona is that comps have to be built around her. So usually I would say like Jean is the most well-rounded unit because Jean can do also everything. And she can heal. Mona cannot heal. But Mona is like exceptionally good in every situation in the game. But her biggest problem is that you have to build the comp specifically around Mona. You cannot like throw Mona in your team if you want to. You have to build around Mona and want to use her as a main DPS, sub DPS, just to make use of her amplification ability. C2, we would give her like SS tier for the main DPS slot. Then she is on the level as Klee and on the look in our opinions, but still S+ for her at the end. Ningguang, next character, strongest Geo character in the game. I think I do not really have to say anything else. If you can get her up to C6, we would move her up 1.5 tiers up to the S plus tier, a very strong character. With the geo buffs, I will update the tier list, and then she potentially could move up even higher, because I personally do think that she can get on the level of Klee and on the level of Diluc, and she will outperform Childe and she will outperform Keqing when it comes to level of DPS. Noelle, this might be a bit controversial because there are a lot of Noelle lovers and a lot of Noelle haters. Honestly, Noelle at C0, Noelle does need a lot of investment to be really strong or to work, but she cannot compete with all the characters. So only because the character is C or D, we cannot really say that the character is horrible, but it does need a lot of investment to work. That's the note that I also put up here. As a main DPS, we move her 2 tiers up when you have her at C6. She has D at support only because she can heal at C0, but it is like not a guaranteed heal. Qiqi, very easy to say. She's a very strong low investment character. So she's like the best low investment character in the game, I would say. You do not have to invest in her at all, and she will heal for a very good amount. But her late game scaling is very bad, and this is a tier list mainly focused on AR 40+. Razor, selfish carry. Oh, sometimes I do scroll like too far. Razor as a very selfish carry, I think do not really have to talk about him. You have to build the comp specifically around him. You have to put in a lot of supporters to enable his damage. He only can make use of Superconduct, which is one of the worst reactions, and still can put out a lot of damage. Next one is Sucrose. Sucrose is super good. He can share Elemental Mastery, and he has Swill, which is very useful, using him with the artifact set. We only put Sucrose in the support tier at C0 because Sucrose unfortunately does need at least 1 or 2 constellations to work. C1 is his most impactful, I would say, because then you have at least 2 E-charges. If you can combine this with a Sacrificial Fragment, you have 3 E-charges, and then it would come close to the damage of a Gene E as a sub-DPS. That's why we would give him the A tier in the sub DPS slot, and we move him up 1 tier in the support slot if you have him at C1. At C0, a very solid A tier support. Exploration, he doesn't bring anything. In the current abyss, he's very good because grouping in the current abyss is important, but overall we still can give him the A tier. Childe, also, he is a bit similar to Razor, a very selfish character, even more selfish than Razor, and he has cooldown issues. But knowing that, I think I think this tier overall seems to be very controversial. So a lot of people would maybe put Childe in the SS tier. But even me, as one of the Childe mains, so I did main Childe since he was out. He is one of my favorite characters in the game. I do main this character, and I really have to say that his cooldown issues and the team that you have to build around him, they are like not as close to the one from Diluc. So Diluc, you can splash into any team that you want, but if you want to put in Childe in your team, then you have to build around Childe to optimize his damage. Childe still can do a lot of damage, but we cannot move him up like on the same level on Klee and Diluc, even if he can make off Vaporize. So the only thing that I would agree with is to give him here a S+, possibly, but because of this fact, it doesn't give him the SS tier. Yeah, for the main character, I don't want to really talk about. So I just want to sometimes repeat the categories because you cannot see them. Main DPS, sub DPS, support, exploration, abyss, then constellation-wise. This doesn't change because we all get those at C6. So for this tier list, only the main character is considered, of course, C6. He's free to play. Venti. I often said that Venti cannot be used as a main DPS character, so actually you can also like put in this for him. But at AR50, I saw a lot of different Ventis doing decent damage at a DPS. I always thought Venti is not a strong main DPS character. But being the best unit of the game, I said he can do everything except for damage. But now at AR 50, I saw like heavily invested Ventis, how much damage they can do. He is even more the most broken, best character in the game, even as a main DPS, giving him SS in all tiers, as a sub DPS, as a main DPS, as exploration wise, he is insanely good. For the Abyss, he's also very good. He loses a bit, so you potentially give him an S plus because he loses like in the floor 12-3 and 11-3. Then he is not too strong because 12-3 has shields. Geo is a lot more effective in this floor, but in general, for the Abyss floors, Venti is exceptionally good. Another controversial one, Xiangling, arguably the strongest 4-star carry in the game. So I would say that there's only Razor and Bennett. Oh no, if we only talk about carry, then I think the only one that is on the same level as Xiangling in terms of DPS is Razor, maybe Bennett in certain team comps, but like in general, I would say Xiangling with a Crescent Pike. Very important, I didn't notice that here. With a Crescent Pike, she is on the level like Razor. We give her very high tiers. None of my friends and even me, none of us likes her at all. But she's an insane character, and we have to admit that at C4 she can increase the duration of her ultimate. So we moved her up for the S tier as a sub DPS. Then she is like the best enabler for Childe, and yeah, we have to admit that. Next one is Xinqiu. Xinqiu does need Sacrificial Sword. I think this is commonly known. With C2, we would give him as S tier in the support slot. Without Sacrificial Sword, we have to move him like down here on A tier. There's A tier. Abyss is also A tier. So we would move him down on A tier for these two if you don't use Sacrificial Sword on him. C2, we would still give him A tier, I guess, A plus. Sacrificial Sword moves him up like 1 or 2 tiers in this list. Xinyan. Xinyan is a bit different because we don't have a fully built out Xinyan currently in this game or in our group of friends. But I did saw very, very strong Xinyans, and from what I've seen is on a statistic is that Xinyan is the 3rd hardest hitting unit without elemental reaction. So number 1 is the new character Ganyu, number 2 was Diluc, and number 3 was Xinyan. So I do not know how accurate this list was, but I did saw this. So we give her like very good tiers. The current problem that I see with her, or that we see with her, is that her kit is too much based around her physical damage, while she does a lot of fire damage. We do not know how good this works together. Xinyan could potentially change in the tiers during the next patches when one of us did build her quite well, but this is the current thing that we give her for now. Zhongli, the most controversial character at all. So I did put out a lot of content for Zhongli. I tested him out a lot, and unfortunately I have to say he gets outperformed by a lot of characters. I think in the current state of the game, he is alright, but I was always saying that he does need his buffs. At C0, he does need his buffs. I never said, I was never one of those Zhongli haters, but I have to say that he is not as good as other characters. So main DPS, he is only good if you heavily invest in him. So I did invest in him to make him work, and he still get outperformed by a lot of my other characters. Same for the sub DPS slot. Support, there was a lot of discussion in our group too. A lot of our members wanted to put him in the S tier because he can give a shield, he can give Petrify, but the downside is he has Geo Element, and Geo Element makes it a bit worse. The big thing is, we do know that Zhongli gets a buff. He gets Elemental Resistance Shred, he gets HP scaling, so he definitely will move up 1 or even 2 tiers from here. Exploration wise, you do know it is Daddy Zhong. He can form your ores. In the current Abyss, he still gets an S tier because it is specifically made for him. Floor 12 gives Geo damage bonus. At C2, we can give him the A tier for the sub DPS slot, but not higher. Overall, he still gets a A tier. Now, for the two new characters, these are the new two additions from this tier list. We both tested those characters very intensively. So Ganyu is around 3 days old now, 4 days. So when you will see the tier list, she's like nearly 1 week old. By this time, I have at least 48 hours plus of play tested her very intensively. Albedo I didn't test, but my friends did test him out quite a lot. My girlfriend tested him out a lot. He is a very solid unit. Only reason we cannot move him higher is because he is Geo, but like as a sub DPS, he is insane. You only use his bloom, you only use his ultimate, get him out, and you have like always damage amplification on the field, as well as for exploration, where he has his elevator. Current Abyss, he is S+, he is a bit better than Zhongli, I think, because you only have to put on the bloom, and then you can swap into your main DPS, and you will always proc Geo damage in addition, which gets a buff in floor 12. So overall, we can give him an S tier as a very well-rounded character, very good character. But he has like nothing that is so broken that we can move him up in the SS tier. Now, last but not least, Ganyu. Ganyu is now the potentially highest damage carry in the game. She is a bit clunky. She's not as clunky as Klee, I would say, but you have to get used to her kit. You have to get used to her overall. I was debating a lot between those tiers, so we give her the A tier. She is as tall like a lot of different characters, but with her bow, you can farm chicken. If you guys do not know this, in Mondstadt on the bridge, you can farm chicken the same way like you can do it with Venti, but you do not need the ult, you only do need a charged auto attack, and this moves her up from B to A tier. That was the reason for her exploration A tier. And for support, we debated a lot of time if it is SS or S tier, but then we did took a look at the other SS tiers, which is Venti in the sub DPS, which is Mona, and there's nobody else that is in this slot. And even though Ganyu has a taunt and she has 100% uptime on her ultimate, she doesn't like provide the same things like they do. Mona can put out the highest single number in the game as a sub DPS character. Of course, the big downside is you have to build team comp around her. But Ganyu with her turn, so this was something that I still debating about. It could be like, this is arguably S+ or even SS. But for now, like testing her a lot as a support, I think it doesn't feel like the same brokenness level like Venti and Mona as a sub DPS. And that's the reason why I refuse to give her a SS in this tier. Current Abyss, she's strong. She makes 11-2 fairly easy. I will put out another video on that. She makes it very, very easy, and this is currently the hardest floor or the hardest content stage in the game in general. Floor 11-2 is currently the hardest content overall. Overall, even though she has a here and S here, I think she has to be on the same level as the SS character. So she is arguably on the same level as Venti. She's the most comparable character to Venti now in the game. She's definitely on the level with Diluc and with Bennett. And that's why, even though it seems like more an S+ overall, I would still give her overall in SS tier, main DPS. As I said, potentially highest damage carry in the game. In Abyss, she is amazing, and this is the hardest content. So Ganyu, they definitely make everything right with her. Yeah. TLDR of this tier list, so I just put in like all the characters with their overall tier in one smaller tier list, so you can have a look at everything in one picture. We just put in like the S+ tier as another row because we would have a lot of S tier characters in general. So just to show you that these 4 S+ characters are actually better than these ones overall or in the general usage of the game. Then tier list is pretty long, so this tier list is very in-depth. I tried to get through everything as fast as possible. So if you have any comments, concerns, then put them in the comment section down below, so we definitely can put out a little bit of discussion about certain tiers of those characters. And if you guys did enjoy today's video, like, comment, and subscribe. It would help me out a lot, and I'll see you guys next time. If you guys want to see more Genshin Impact content, videos should pop up on the screen now. Make sure to check them out, and I thank you for your support.